Hello guys, welcome to my channel Happy Reacting, and in today's video we will be learning how to make a very basic project of Spring Boot in Java, and in that too we'll be learning a very basic concept of autowire and bean, what are those and why autowire is needed. We'll be setting up a very basic project of a Spring Boot, and for that we let's get started. And for that we need to go to this URL start.spring.io. In this I've selected it is a Maven project. The language by default is Java, and I'm setting the version to 2.7.0. These are packages name, artifact name. You can define whatever you want and keeping it as demo itself. Selecting jar to get the dependencies and all, and the Java version is 11. So to get started, I need to add a dependency of Spring Boot. The Spring Boot dependencies, I will be adding Spring Web. I want to make it as a MVC Spring framework. And let's add one more dependency, that is Spring Boot DevTools for the fast reload and restart of the application. There are loads of dependencies that you can add, and that's the simplicity of making a Spring Boot application. You will get all the dependencies, you will get these dependencies in your pom.xml. I will explain that pom.xml as well. So what all you have is, if you want to connect to a database, you have Spring Data JPA. Then there are like different databases that you want to connect to: Postgre, MySQL, MongoDB, H2 database that's in-memory database. Then there's a WebSocket, then Prometheus, and there are loads of dependencies that we will not be discussing in this video. This video is for very basic understanding how Spring Boot works, and in that too how autowire and bean works. So I will share this link as well, so that you can just directly go on that link and generate the jar. I will generate it out, and it will just give you a zip file. You can just unzip it and open that project. I will be using IntelliJ as my IDE to code. For that, let's open IntelliJ, and it's a community edition for me. So let's open this project, demo project that I've just generated out. So yeah, so as I told, whatever dependencies that you're adding, right, that will be added to the pom.xml file. As you see over here, the Java version that was said it was 11. Then the starter web is there. Then the dev tools that I added and the starter test. Okay, let's not change this file. So in going ahead also, once you have cloned the project or something like that from that Spring Starter initializer, what you can do is you can add dependencies going ahead. If you have any dependencies, more dependencies coming in near future, you can add those things and use those in your project. So let's get started. We'll first of all make one more package over here. New package. Let's name this as first app or something like that. And inside this package I will be having a new Java class. Let's name it as shopping. So what we will be doing is we will be creating a shopping, and inside that will be a cart, and we'll be adding different items to it. So let's name it, let's define some keywords, variables, and item ID, let's say private list string card equals to new list. Now it will be giving an error. Let's import this class. Okay, the error is solved. Now let's have the setter and getter for these two. Generate setter and getter. Okay, it will generate me the setter and getter for these. Let's make one more to add an item. Public void add item to cart. Let's item cart dot add item, and one more function to return this. So we want to return a list of string return card or get. So we already have that method, we already made that get card, so don't need to return that again. Okay, so we have made this class now. So it's a very basic class. Now if we want, we can go to the demo application. So usually what we do in Java is we make an app object to it. So we can just, first of all I will show how to make a basic object. Let's say shopping. It will import the class for me because it's in a different package. Shopping equals to new shopping. Now if I do shopping dot set, let's do for id, let's set id 1, then system dot out dot println, and then let's get the shopping dot get item id. Let's try to run this application. We should get 1 printed in this. It's building. I started a Spring framework, and as you see 1 is printed over here. Now what happened over here is, like, we are creating a one more new object of a shopping class, and then we are setting the item id and like printing it out. Now let's say we want to, as I told, we'll be discussing bean and all. So if we want to make it as a bean class, so there we can define it as a @ component. So now the component is a parent class, and the component class have service, repository as the different annotations for the different purpose. Like let's say @service is just for the depicting, like we are writing a bean class in a service layer or a business logic layer. @repository is for those who have the persistent data and we want to connect with the database and we want to get that data, so we define that in this one. So what happened over here is, like you have heard of dependency injection and the application context, application container of Spring Boot. So what happens over here is, let me just show it in a diagram. So what happened over here is we have a Spring container that is inside a JVM. So once we have written @component, we have defined shopping as a bean, and it will create at the start of the application, it will create a shopping object of this class in the Spring container. So this can be accessible anywhere in the class, in the project, complete project. So, and this shopping will have the name as the shopping only, as small. So we can undo this line. Okay. So next what we do, we'll make one more class and we'll say how to get this object. Let's say we are purchasing a laptop. Let's make this class. Let's make one more class. Mobile. Okay. Now what I want to do is, I want to autowire this shopping object that the Spring has created for me. For that, what I need is, I need an autowire annotation. I autowire it. Now let's say shopping, right? Now let's make and call to like add something to the shopping cart. Public void add item. Let's add shopping dot add item to cart, and let's say laptop. I want to add a laptop to my shopping cart, and same way we will just copy this and let's go to the mobile. We'll auto wire this same and we'll add mobile. So now what is happening over here is I have created two more classes and I'm trying to access the same object that is created in the Spring. Now as I've written over here singleton and prototype. So how the Spring container works is it follows two design patterns. By default it's a singleton and we can make it as a prototype as well. For making as prototype, what we need to do is we over here I can define @scope, and in the scope I can define value equals to prototype. So what happens in singleton is it will create, as the name suggests, it will create a single instance of an object in its Spring container and every class will be accessing this only. What happens in prototype is every time when you are auto wiring this, so once I'm auto wiring this in laptop, once I'm auto wiring in this mobile, it will create a two different objects of this in this Spring container, and it will be created at the time when we are auto wiring it. With the singleton, it creates at the runtime. With prototype, it will create when we are auto wiring. So let's move it and let's move it back to the singleton. So now mobile and laptop both are accessing the same object and adding it. So if they are adding to the same object, if I try to get the card back, it should return an array that will contain laptop and mobile both, right? So let's go to our demo application. Okay, and let's remove it. Now we do not want this. Now one more thing comes in. Let's say I am defining a laptop equals to new laptop, right? Now I want to add item. I'm calling add item. Okay, now let's try to run it. So we get a null pointer exception, and on which line we are getting this? We are getting on this line. But how come it's a null pointer exception that we are getting? So let me just explain you how it happened. So over here, what I'm doing is, now I have a new class. Let's undo it. So I have created a new class and I've created a new object of laptop, and I'm trying to access over here in the laptop a auto wired of a Spring. Now this is a very basic mistake that every developer or a very beginner in Java does this. Ki if you create an object of your own, like what I'm doing is with a new keyword, I'm creating an object of my own. Now Spring doesn't have a reference to this, and it doesn't understand ki when we are creating an object over here, auto wiring the shopping one, it doesn't understand which shopping object of the bean class you want to access. So that's why what happens over here is this shopping is null. If I want to show it also, system, I will just print this shopping object. If I run it, you will see it will be null. So how to solve this? First let's see it. See, it is coming as null. Now what happens is, when you are auto wiring, you want to have the dependency injection, and each and every class should follow that. So for that, what I can do is I can define this as well as the component, and the same I will define the mobile as well as the component. So now what I'm doing is I am telling Spring only to create two more classes. Let's say laptop and mobile. Let's just rearrange it. Okay, and what is happening is, once I've auto wired now, so this laptop is dependent on shopping, and the same this mobile is getting dependent on shopping. Okay, so now we are telling Spring कि I am creating 3 bean classes. Now at the start, Spring only will create these 3 objects in its container, and it will auto-wire, as we are auto-wiring laptop a shopping object in a laptop. So it is telling कि laptop has a dependency on shopping, and the same goes for mobile. So this is what dependency injection is. Now coming back to my demo application. So now we do not need to create this like that. Now what we can do is over here as well, I can auto wire, and I can do laptop, and let's try to like up now the same thing, laptop, laptop dot add items. Now what it is saying, it is saying there is some issue because we cannot use a non-static method inside a static method. So what we can do over here, we can, let's try to have this as static. Now let's try to run it. Okay, still the null pointer exception. So now what happens is we cannot define this as a static, and even if we not do it, then it is saying we cannot use it inside a static method. So what we can do over here is I will define a new annotation, that is post construct, and I will define one more variable that will be static for me, let's say of laptop type. Let's make it as L, and I will make this as laptop, and in the post construct public void init, what I'm trying to do is I'm making this laptop to point to this L. Right now I can use this parameter, and let's try to run it. Yeah, so there is no issue. The same we will do for the mobile, autowire, mobile class M, and I will define the same static variable over here for mobile equals to M. Let's autowire the shopping cart also, and we'll see autowire shopping S. Now adding a laptop item to it, then I will add mobile dot add item. Then so basically in these two lines, what I'm doing, I'm adding a laptop and a mobile to a shopping cart. Now let's try to print it. SOUT system.out.println s dot get cart, shopping dot get cart. Let's try to run it. As you see, you are getting a laptop and a mobile, and this shows we are using a single object of shopping. I am getting it. Laptop is also auto wiring the same object and adding it, so it keeps, and mobile is also doing the same, so it keeps the same instance and add to the same object every time. So this is what auto wiring is. So what we have achieved with doing auto wire is we have a cleaner code, first of all. Second is we do not have to worry about the object initialization with a new keyword. Over here there are only 3 classes, so you would say yeah, we could have done with the new keyword and the basic how Java does it, and why would we need a autowire and bean class of a Spring. Let's assume you have 10 different classes and more than 10 different classes, and each or every one is, let's say for example, is dependent on this shopping class. If you are using a constructor and you are taking 2-3 different values, and let's say you add one more value to this shopping one, so now wherever you are creating a object of this shopping class in all the 10 files, all the 10 classes that you have defined, you have to go and change the initialization process. You have to add one more variable to it. So why to the management becomes difficult. So why to do that? For that, Springs comes up with this auto wiring bean. The code looks clean. There is no worry to you to manage the object initialization. The Spring does it for you at the start of the application. So that's what it is, and that's the advantage of using a Springboard application, auto wiring, and bean. One more thing I wanted to add is right now I could have given this component a name also, let's say lab, and I could you would have used it in this with the at the qualifier and lab. So this is like auto wiring by the reference of the name, and there are loads of more concept. I will try to cover up those in the next videos. As you see, with the name also it works fine. So I will try to cover up with in the coming videos. We'll have basic discussion on different concepts of Java, different basic concepts of Spring Boot, and we'll try to have a complete playlist around this so that it can help you to understand Spring Boot more, and Java as well, who are new to Java, and there can be people who are already doing these things but are not aware how these things work theoretically. So stay tuned for more videos to come in, and thank you guys for watching this video, and I'm signing off. Happy reacting, guys.